Imagine juggling a demanding career while navigating the roller coaster of hormonal changes that impacts your focus, energy, and overall well-being. Now, picture a world where workplaces not only acknowledge these challenges but actively support them with solutions that empower and uplift. Our guest today is on a mission to turn that vision into reality. She is the co founder of a transformative platform that tackles women's wellness head on, redefining how we approach health equity in the workplace. With a background that fuses holistic health and innovative leadership, she is building a community where self care and professional success coexist. Welcome to another episode of our Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your business. In this episode, I talk to Amita, the founder of Nourish Talk. Here we go. Amita, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ash. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. So I'm super excited to have our discussion today.
Perfect. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or
Mhm.
motivates you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think it applies to me for the last so many years is believe in yourself when no one else does.
Mhm.
And I think this is a story of my life for decades and decades, going back into, my teen years and moving into college and now again doing something that I felt that no one else wanted to talk about what
Mhm.
I'm the work that I'm doing, and I kept going. And now look at the world we have. We are opening up these kind of taboo topics and also making business out of it.
Definitely, definitely. So, 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 uh, Amita, tell us more about Nourish Dog. What does the service product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Yeah. So Nourish Talk is really a holistic wellness for women, specifically for mid-aged women who are starting their journey into perimenopause, which is not very well understood, under research, and going into the menopause and beyond. The
Mhm.
idea is to really start them with evidence-based, trusted information knowledge, sort of like a self-care,
Mhm.
and then move into a guided care from the experts and then a concierge care one-on-one personalized, right? Now the problem in this one is that, like I said earlier, is that this whole topic of perimenopause menopause is under researched and underfunded. And the
Mhm.
reason now it's becoming so important is that more than 50% of the workforce is women, and in UK where you are from, the rising population of the working force is menopausal women. So
Mhm.
now, when we have to work at the workplace and we are not able to function, and then this now has become not only the your physical symptom but also encompasses your entire life. Actually, it can engulf your physical, mental, social, spiritual, all kind of wellness. And that is really what I am trying to bring to light, is that women's wellness beyond the reproductive years, which has been long under research and forgotten and kind of put it under the rug and become a taboo, it needs to come
Mhm.
out. It's another phase of a woman's life, which should be given same importance as other phases of anyone's life, whether woman or man.
Definitely, definitely. And this topic particularly fed this, you know, interest me because when I was doing my accelerator program for my startup, I
Mhm,
came across with few personalities who was working along the similar lines,
mhm,
and then we had a discussion about it. And then during
mhm,
the discussion, also, I felt a little bit of conscious conversation happening. Like people were not opening up that
mhm,
well, and I
mhm,
can understand your feeling like this needs to get out of that taboo zone and get into the mainstream. So let's
mhm,
talk about where the story began. Where did the idea for this
mhm.
venture came from?
Well, most of the stories begin from when you go through, right?
Yeah,
So I,
definitely.
I was in my early 40s at the time, and then suddenly these strange symptoms started happening to me, which I had no clue and no solution, and it was very embarrassing. It started impacting my work, and that's how it started impacting my financial, all those things, because usual culprits of hot flashes, night sweats, and then sleep, and then the morning, you're not kind of focused, and brain fog and anxiety. They're very common symptoms, and that's exactly started happening to me. I was
Mm-hmm.
working in the corporate high tech, very high paced kind of a work environment at that time. I never thought I'll be sitting in front of you. I just wanted to fix myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it just I struggled, and really actually suffered in silence, to be honest with you. Didn't want to go tell anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone, for the
Mm-hmm.
fear of being judged, for the fear of being age discrimination, whatever you want to call it, right? All
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And I didn't want to be on the pills for the rest of my life. Like, if you go, you anxiety pills, all those things. So fast forward, a few years back when the COVID hit, I got a break, and I started thinking as to what should I do with my, career at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started looking into holistic wellness as a whole. But a couple of years back, when I talked to about more than 3,000, 4,000 experts, holistic experts from all over the world, it dawned on me that this particular area, which I at that time was taboo, still is a taboo. We are
Mm-hmm.
really not talking about it openly. And that's when I started digging into the research and digging into all those things. And as we decided that as a company, we are going to focus on this particular phase of a woman's life,
Mm-hmm.
starting with, as I explained, simple information, which is so misguided, so many information out there. Women are confused.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how this whole journey happened. It wasn't like a one day switch. It was
Mm-hmm.
over the years of suffering, and then going into talking to so many people, and then going into the research, the normal process of a startup, and then saying, okay, does it make sense for us to do this? Is there something out there that women would feel that it's useful, right? At the end of the day, when you're creating any business, it needs to solve a problem, and it needs to be useful to your client or your customer persona that you're going after. So that was the journey, and that's kind of where we are right now.
Got it. Which year you started working on Nourishing Dog? Is it 2023 or
Yeah,
before that?
something like that. We've been working on it for
Okay.
the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken a lot of research that we had to do
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the information that we're presenting is all evidence-based and credible.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last couple of years, we have been working on this whole, about, that's right, 2023.
2023. Okay, great. So I want to, I'm eager to learn more about you as a person. But before we go to that side of the story, when you had the epiphany, you mentioned something that you looked into the market. Were there any other product services available? And if not, what was going on at that time? And what did you see from your research that
Mhm.
encouraged you to move ahead with this idea?
So yeah, there are companies, absolutely. There are quite a few. I think about a dozen companies all over the world who are working on this particular problem. But
Mhm.
most of them, the startups that we have, are working on a typical tele consultation, and solution is like an HRT or some kind of a medication. So that is the typical startups out there in this field of menopause.
Mhm.
So I looked at it very carefully, and there are a couple of startups from UK as well, and majority of them are only working with the okay, you have a problem, you can get connected with the gynecologist or some kind of an expert, and
Mhm.
your HRT dose or some kind of a medication or something would come to you to alleviate the symptoms or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
I wanted to present, not that there's anything wrong with it, there is obviously a place for that, but I felt that that is sort of like a stage three, in a woman's journey. Most of the women that I interviewed, they don't even know what is hitting them, this whole perimenopause. And
Mm.
perimenopause actually lasts for multiple years. And that fact, n- not even medical professionals are taught in medical schools, believe it or not, right?
Mm.
And menopause is only taught for like 8 hours, and that's it in their 15-hour journey of their rigorous education training. They've told me themselves.
Okay. Okay,
These
interesting.
OBGYN, they have shared this information. So now, it's a fundamental, actually. Yes, you can take medication. I'm not against medication, but we need to start with the fundamentals, which I felt that there was so much gap as to really making a woman understand why she's going to have these symptoms. What is she going to have the symptoms? What kind of self-care techniques that she could do to
Hmm.
start helping herself, which I personally ended up doing. And I fixed myself, which was all
Hmm.
trial and error, by the way, at that time. And
Hmm.
then after that, experts, if they need the experts to go into the HRT, that is sort of like a third step or the fourth step. Or before that, you can do so much with making lifestyle modifications, which can help you, right,
Hmm.
or fix you a little bit. And then you can say, okay, or even you can take some of this supplements, which mimic sort of like an HRT, not as strong as HRT. So there are a
Hmm.
lot of options available before women go HRT that women can do. And that's where I wanted to focus on. And that's where I saw that, there was not much going on.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. So fundamentally, you're saying that your startup basically focuses on the preliminary education of
Hmm.
individuals when they
Hmm.
start getting the symptoms, and then
Hmm.
potentially helping them to go through that journey with others who are potentially facing the similar
Hmm.
symptoms, but also creating that mindset, is creating that awareness
Hmm.
individually so that you can be ready when you
Hmm.
reach to the stage of medical triage or
Hmm.
consultation, or even medicines. Is that
Yeah, and then we are presenting the holistic solutions as well, right? You're absolutely right. But we are also presenting, so to speak, in the self care, it's going to be all the holistic therapies. Like, for
Mhm,
instance, women, how to change your lifestyle, how to change your diet, right?
mhm,
And how to incorporate some of the holistic therapies like breathing, like yoga, like acupressure, essential
mhm,
oils, hypnotherapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? I talk about the nutrition, and then the movement part, right? Different type of exercises, all that we're including in the self serve. It's not
mhm,
just only the, okay, learn about the symptoms, oh, heart flash number one or
mhm,
whatever. It's
mhm,
also, we are basically sharing the information. How can they take care of this if they start changing their daily routine, the daily habits, and incorporating a holistic way of life? And then the second step is we have functional medicine doctors or integrative medicine doctors, or what you call naturopathic doctors, that they can guide you if you want to go through the holistic route of, let's say, different type of vitamins, or testing plus the vitamins or the supplements that you need to take. That
mhm,
would be the second step. And then the third step is, of course, if someone needs HRT, then we are not experts in HRT, but we will have sort of like a network of specialists who specialize in HRT, because highly regulated. So
mhm,
that's the step we are going, one, two, three, so that it's a correct progression. Like, some women, they can't handle HRT, for example, cancer survivors, so some women don't want to take HRT right off the bat,
mhm,
and HRT is not one size fits all. It takes a lot of trial and error. Sometimes women can get reactions. In fact, recently in UK, there was a study that was done, BBC mandate, that a lot of women came out and they had a lot of issues, right? So,
mhm.
it's a progression of what you should get, and then, okay, you go HRT.
Got it. Got it. Stage one, getting to understand your own body with breathing, yoga, nutrition, exercise, etc. Stage two,
Yeah.
you triage them to functional medical doctors, connect them, get more help,
Hmm.
and then potentially stage three, where they can go towards the medication, which is the
Hmm.
HRT you mentioned. I would like to dive into the medical part later on. But let's move
Hmm.
towards your personal story. I'm eager to learn more about the person behind this venture. Right? Can you take us
Hmm.
back to your roots and share with our listeners about your upbringing, childhood? How did your early experiences shape your journey? Um, Shape your journey, and eventually led you to become an entrepreneur as you are today. And
Hmm.
I'm particularly interested, were there any key influences from your family or surrounding that played a
Hmm.
significant role? It could be a rich dad, poor dad situation also. That
Hmm. Hmm.
it
Hmm.
would be interesting
Yeah,
to know.
yeah, absolutely.
And then we would love to hear more about the foundation that set you into this path.
Yeah, so I actually grew up I spent a lot of time in boarding schools in India. So I grew up
Hmm.
in India. And my
Hmm.
grandparents had a profound effect on me, my grandmother especially, because I was in boarding school and I used to go visit her. So I think my grandfather at that time, he started from the street and he became actually very rich in those times in India. And I think
Hmm.
his story had a huge profound impact on me, and
Hmm.
I was actually very shy at the time. So this whole boarding school and then getting into architecture, I did not know what to do with my life, to be honest with you. At that time it was either you go medical or you go arts, what that's what they used to say. And
Yeah.
women were sort of like just getting out and having a profession in my generation. So I ended up going into architecture, which nobody knew about it, which I myself did not know. It was an
Hmm.
experimentation of what I wanted to become. So I
Yeah.
think in my life, if I go back, there was a lot of roller coaster ride, I should say that, in terms of my personal life, going into the boarding schools and visiting relatives during the holidays and seeing my parents only once a year. So that actually, you can imagine a teenage girl growing up in India, what kind of impact it can have. And
Yeah.
then going into a profession and sort of like being a very, oh, I want to do something in my life, but I don't know what to do. So you get into something and then try to figure out, that's kind of, and I didn't want to go into the medicine at that time because I was scared of opening up even a frog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right. So it was a lot of, I would say, unpredictability. And
Hmm.
it was not like a sort of like a predictable, most of the time, predictable environment in a family. You grow up and then you know what to do. My story was very unpredictable right from age 13.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it was unnerving. It was kind of like, especially in a country like India, you're growing up, but at the same time I learned to survive, believing in myself, what I said earlier. And I always constantly had to change myself, right, to fit in. Like,
Hmm.
for example, in architecture, I ended up coming to this country. I got another degree from UC Berkeley, but when I came into the real world, I was not able to make it, enough living as an architect. So again, I had to change into it. So change has been a constant in my life,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where I'm coming from. If you ask me about my childhood and about my other years, and they were.
What sort of business your granddad was in? You mentioned a little bit about it.
Mhm,
We would like to
mhm.
hear that part of the story, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. So his brothers actually basically threw him out on the street. That's a story. And he was very young, and as a young boy, he started selling books from the
Mm.
street,
Mm-hmm.
literally. And he was such an entrepreneur. He ended up opening the biggest bookstore in a small town called Amritsar, which is a border town of Pakistan, if
Mm-hmm.
you've heard about that.
Yeah.
And he became one of the wealthiest persons in that city.
Wow.
That's such an amazing, and selling books while he was a Jeff Bezos of
India. Yeah,
in
exactly.
that town, so to speak.
Yeah.
So and he became so wealthy in his life. I mean, in his life,
Mm-hmm.
that at that time, like I say, he had a huge mansion and a lot of things. So he
Mm-hmm.
was a very practical, down to earth, basic, business guy. When
Mm-hmm.
I started doing architecture, he said, you know what, how many people are going to build homes every single day? What are you
Yeah.
doing? You should do something when people do every single day. That's what he told me. I still remember that. And I was like so adamant, no, 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 no. I don't want to become a doctor, but I want to go, to something creative, because I was always thought I was a very creative person. And at that time, I did not know what to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a little story there.
Oh, very, very nice. It's amazing. I always dig into these childhood
Hmm.
stories because I love to hear about them. And then,
Hmm.
it uncovers quite a lot of things in this story. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
Hmm.
So let's go forward then. What we already talked about what inspired you.
Yeah.
um so I have a question which is a little bit which derail our conversation, but it does touches the
Hmm.
topic.
Hmm.
Menopause and hormonal transitions are often taboo topics, which you have already mentioned. How does
Hmm.
Nourish Talk aim to normalize this conversation in the workplace specifically?
Hmm.
That's the point I would like to touch.
Yeah, so we are talking to a lot of workplace decision makers, so to speak, right? And
Hmm.
I and the way we are trying to normalize this is that the perimenopause is the menopause is happening in 50s, right? But these hormonal transitions are happening much earlier. As I said, to me, it started happening in my 40s, early 40s.
Hmm.
So these things have to be normalized at workplace because it's impacting the productivity of their employees. If you think about it, the women can't function because of these hormonal transition. So I think employers have to be educated at the same time that how it impacts the productivity, the absenteeism, the language that they are used to learn,
Yeah.
and understanding, and the ROI and all the world, right? All these things that what they want to understand. So I think
Mm.
they need to be, and they're waking up. It's very slow. Yeah, not that everyone has this whole thing in place, but
Hmm.
they are waking up and they are realizing that this importance of giving this kind of at least having open discussion about women who are in their 40s, because there's the major, like 40% of them are 40 plus, and if they
Mm.
don't have this discussion, it's impacting their bottom line. So I think really have to put it all together to talk about how it is impacting their bottom line and their business by not taking care of their employees, this cohort of employees that is 40%. That's kind of
Quite a
what I
lot,
think.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah, it is a
and
lot.
I get the whole AI workforce paradigm we are
Yes.
going through
Yeah.
right now, but
Yes,
I
right.
don't see a world where humans will not be working. It's too far away for me.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I'm not against AI or anything like that. I myself
Mm-hmm.
is a big fan of it. It just
Mm-hmm.
seems like if you don't have people taking care of whatever the AI does for you,
Mm-hmm.
specifically in workplaces, then it is
Yeah.
not going to help you out from a business perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, AI is a big thing. Like even in Silicon Valley, we hear, nobody's talking that because of AI there are layoffs, but there have been a lot of layoffs
Mm.
that's been happening from big companies like Facebook, Google. I mean, I personally know quite a few people who have been laid off, and I don't know what the reason is, but I'm assuming AI is one of the reasons, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, AI is going to be there everywhere. That is a fact of life, whether we like it or not. Um, it's going to impact everyone, each one of us, the way we work, the way we function at workplaces, at everywhere. So
Mhm.
this is probably, not going to be an exception. I would say that, right? When AI is taking over our lives. But at the same time, you do need humans. You do need humans to have some kind of a human interaction. And I feel that this particular topic, the perimenopause, menopause, yeah, you can build all kind of AI engines, but it's so complicated that you need a human touch, because most of the women, when they're going through, they need. There's a lot of things that it's not just only the physical part of it; it's the emotional,
Mm.
right? The emotional also is, they're also going through the emotional part of anxiety. They're also going through their changes at home. Probably they more than likely they have teenage, if they have family, teenage kids. They're going through maybe relationship issues with their spouse or partner, because loss of libido is another one thing. So it's not just the AI can't fix all these emotional issues, is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's an big emotional angle to this whole perimenopause, menopause. which is huge, which we HRT cannot fix it, right?
Great, great.
So right, so I think AI has a role, but at the same time, human element of understanding other humans what they're going through will never go away in my mind.
Never go.
There'll
Yeah.
always be a place for that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the business then. Can you give us a sense of the size of the business, where you are in terms of number of customers, size of team, etc.?
So we are a startup. The
Hmm.
market is huge, as we know that. It's a lot of Wall Street Journal. You can see all the stats that the market is over 600 billion for this whole segment of the women out there. So we are a startup. We have done a lot of work with individual women for the last
Hmm.
2 years, and what we are doing is we are coming out with an app soon. So the hope to put it in the hands of as many women as possible,
Hmm.
and that's where we are, and we are about a month or two away from launching all these things that I'm talking about.
Great stuff. And then, would you be able to share compelling case study that highlights how somebody, an organization, maybe,
Mhm.
used your services solution and solved their key business challenges when it comes to women's going through the same stages? I would like to hear about some specific specificities, the steps taken to implement your solution and the measurable outcomes they experienced as a result.
I have an individual case study of women
Sure.
individual, not as a company right now, but I can just share with you individual women that, and we are going to actually post quite a few when we come out. So typically, like I said, an individual woman is going through I mean, she's confused. Actually, it starts happening similar to what my story was. It's suddenly, they start getting like this woman I know, she started getting sort of like panic attacks, right? So
Hmm.
panic attacks is also one of the symptoms, and she thought she was having a heart attack, and then well, basically, and she's a health expert herself, and she had no clue that this was part of the perimenopause journey.
Mm.
Perimenopause, what I'm talking about, and also the hot flashes and the sleep and all those things were also at the same time happening. So then you go to the doctor, that's where she went, and then again the same story, some kind of a pill was given, and it helps you for some time, but then it constantly you're in there. So in the end, she got some kind of a Dutch test and some of the food
Mhm.
tolerance, what you call it, insensitivity test done to understand. We went to a naturopathic doctor to understand what is happening. And that's when she really realized, her hormones were imbalanced. So the
Mm.
whole critical thing during this journey of perimenopause is we know that hormones are going a roller coaster journey, but you need to keep your hormones balanced, even if they're going roller coaster journey, because of all these symptoms, and the inflammation inside the body was built up because of the toxins and all the food, the food habits were not very good, all those things.
Mm.
So basically what happened was a naturopathic doctor cleanses, they have some kind of a cleansing inside out to take the inflammation out, fixing the gut as that's the first step. If
Mm.
your gut is not okay, you're going to have anxiety. So that was the first step of fixing the gut issues, cleansing the system out, inside out, and then putting it on a holistic plan of a diet to include phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens is something that kind of mimic the estrogen that you're lacking. The phytoestrogens are found in a lot of plants and vegetables, which you can do, and also putting some kind of a sort of like a balanced diet to up the protein in the mornings, and making sure that you having carbs but whole foods, right, the whole grains, so to speak, and then also including some of the breathing exercises, some of the acupuncture, acupressure, and meditation, and some essential oils, all that. So that's kind of a typical story, a case study of a woman when she's having suffering all these symptoms, different kind of symptoms, they more than likely they have inflammation inside the body and the hormones are imbalanced.
So,
So
so,
you
so
need
she
to see
basically
that.
shared her journey with you and asking you like how you could help her out with all these
We have,
issues.
not me personally,
Mhm.
but the naturopathic doctor that I know, right? I mean, I'm not a doctor. We just have referred the people who are
Mhm.
doing to someone, like I said earlier. So that's the journey that is common to quite a few women. Some women had other issues, hot flashes. Some women had anxiety issues she couldn't get rid of, and she couldn't believe, she couldn't, because there's so much stress. If you look
Mm.
about it, during this phase of a woman's life, like 40 something, she has to balance work and life and kids and financial
Everything, yeah.
pressure. And you are, I mean, normal person gets stressed out, forget about this woman. And
Yeah,
go, and along with that, all these symptoms are happening. And so you could be a mess. So that's a
definitely.
normal average woman's story, an average woman I'm talking about. And some women can sail through this entire experience with no problem, but generally speaking, 85, 90% of the women have these some issue or the other. So this
Got it.
is a typical issue, a typical story, that how someone who's having any symptoms, they will get fixed because the testing is important. Cleansing the gut is important because cleansing the gut will fix your brain, right? The anxiety and the depression, and putting you on some kind of a diet that is more plant based, and getting rid of the red meats and getting rid of the processed foods, and then including some movements like strength training to make sure your bone health is, cardio doesn't work all the time, so movement is also very different. And then along with that, relaxation, uh, some kind of a relaxation techniques like breathing, yoga, or meditation, and then along with that, acupressure and acupuncture, and some essential oils to calm yourself, hypnotherapy. All these have evidence, by the way. Hypnotherapy is another one. And talk therapy, CBT, because like I said earlier, there is not just the physical part, it's the emotional part. A lot of times these women can have a low self-esteem, a low self-worth. They're not believing in themselves because of all the changes, physical
Like
changes that
imposter
are
syndrome
happening.
and everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
got it. Perfect.
exactly. So
Thanks
that's kind of the
uh,
thing. Yeah.
for filling me in with this, Amita. So let's talk about the business side of the startup.
Mhm.
What has been the biggest hurdle in building Nourish Doc, and how did you overcome it?
So biggest hurdle has been to really convince the people this that this has to be talked about honestly,
Mm.
right?
But
Yeah.
you're saying that a lot of people are facing these challenges, so
Mhm.
I was guessing that it could have been other way around.
No, now people are, no, when I started, I'm talking about 3 years back when I started talking at that time. But in the
Okay.
last 3 years, luckily, a lot of it has changed. So
Hmm.
that's why we decided to go deep in and create a very comprehensive solution that we are offering now, right? But
Hmm.
a few years back, when I started thinking and just the germination of this idea, and I started talking to people, and at that time, it was sort of not a taboo. I would
Hmm.
not say a taboo, but it was more like, oh, okay, is this something we want to talk about at work? It was just beginning. It was just beginning of the discussion, is what I'm saying. But now, in
Hmm.
the last 3 years, a lot of things have changed. People are open to it. Women are open to discussing. Women want to take these help. Even in India, there are companies have come up. A couple of companies have come up who talk about perimenopause, menopause. So things have changed since the last 3 years, is what I'm saying. And now
Hmm.
it's very different.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great. So before we move to our lightning round, I would like to ask you, like, what's next for Noise Doc? Are there any new projects or partnership in the pipeline? What's the next steps?
Then the next step is really we are launching this, our platform. That's really the next step. And
Hmm.
then we just, as we launch, we test, and like any startup,
Hmm.
we test and we iterate and we go back. So it's hard to say at this time what the test would come, what the iterations would come, but we
Hmm.
learn really the idea is to learn from our customers and learn from the women that we are going to serve, and then give the best tools to them. As that is really what the next thing is this whole year and the beyond.
Great stuff. Cool. So let's move towards our lightning round. But before we do that, I would like to share something with you, which I usually do with my guests. So I always reiterate through the journey of my guests through this small pictorial view. You
Mhm.
started very early. You were living in boarding schools. One of the primary inspiration for you in your life was your grandmom and granddad, which was one of the best business stories from a very small town in India. Became the Jeff Bezos of that town, and supported the whole family. That was pretty impressive. Then you started. Facing the similar symptoms which usually people in this age group with your persona feels, and then that's where you experience sadness, anxiety, and all other symptoms, and that's where the idea to get something together to help people come along. um, the other thing you mentioned is usually when any woman goes through this kind of journey, the services or solution or the help available is a typical consultation, medical triage, medicine, which is a chart you mentioned, and that is divided into three different stages, and that is where Nourish Doc is different because they help you understand their preliminary stages, build your strength, help you understand how you can better tackle the problem, and then potentially go towards the stage two and stage three. And then also you're speaking with quite a lot of enterprises where you're trying to provide different perspective to them that how they can improvise their 40% of workforce going forward to improve productivity, workforce, mental health, and all kind of other productivity sections. Is that a fair
Mhm.
summary for our conversation today?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, I love the way you put the vision board. The way we've been talking and you've been creating the vision board, I think it's really good.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So let's go back to our interview then. I have six quick fire questions for you.
Mhm.
Um, so you can answer them as quickly as you can. You ready?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Great. What's the top three strategies for women to who are going through this stage uh,
Mhm.
to seek help as well as tackle this situation for 2025?
So self-love, that's the number one strategy for any woman. They need to
Mhm.
have self-love, love themselves, self-worth. They need to feel that they are worth and they need to believe in themselves. Because
Mhm.
if these three things they don't do, they're not going to seek help at all.
Got it. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
You know, I have been reading a lot of actually menopause related books, but on the other hand, what I feel is that women should read, most of the women should read mainly self help books or books that kind of improve their self worth and self esteem. So that's what I would say, these kind of books, and a
Mhm.
particular book. Um, well, I just I've been reading very strange books. They're very women oriented. So I don't think that I'm
That might
working.
be a
Actually,
good suitable for this
yeah,
audience. Okay.
right
Okay.
now I'll tell you what I'm reading. I'm reading Age of Vice, and it's set
Mhm.
in India, and it talks about the woman character, how she has to make a lot of adjustments, and how this patriarchal society. So I read these kind of books that where the women kind of becomes the protagonist, and then she becomes like the at the end becomes a powerful woman. But I don't recommend that women should read that because that's me personally. But
Mhm.
overall, I read these kind of books a lot, but overall, I think women should read mainly sort of like self-help books and self that kind of elevate themselves, like
Got
self-worth,
got it.
self-esteem, self-love. These kind of spiritual books, like autobiography for yogi, is a good one, I think,
Okay,
by
got it.
Herman.
What's
Then
what's
these kind
one
of books is what I would suggest.
Sure. What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
The ability to listen to your customer. I think that is something that the founder should really, because what the founder is trying to do is solve a problem. And it's sometimes very difficult when you're listening to your customer. Are you really taking care of the problem that she or he is going through? And are you
Got it.
giving the solution that actually mirrors the problem that she's describing you? I think that can be, what you call it's like product market fit. It can take some time, right, to
Got it.
fit the right thing. And that is
Sure.
so important.
Sure. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
I personally use Google Drive all the time. All the
Yeah.
tools
Yeah.
that you can think of, everything Google has,
Cool.
workspace, all kind of tools. And so that's what I do.
Cool. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
Yeah, you know what? I actually thought of opening up simple salons. You know how they have nail salons and the manicure, pedicure all over the world now. But I thought of opening some salons all over the world where people can go in and get vitamin C shot, for energy.
So that you don't have to take the tabs for the month.
Exactly. And you can do these kind of things. I thought it'd be really cool and really take care of their personal wellness, because right now people go for Botox and all kind of crazy things, but there are so many other things that are available that you can walk in. Oh, give me this shot, give me that shot, and they don't have to take these vitamin
Got it.
supplements
Got
every
it.
day.
Got it. Thanks. What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Well, I love to cook. Actually, my creative side has to come out. So I'm
Hmm.
big into experimenting different kind of ingredients for cooking, and then the other fun stuff is I like dance, Bollywood dance.
Oh,
I
that's
think a
nice.
lot of it grew up in that whole Bollywood dance, right?
Great stuff. Great. Amita, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last year of building the business and some of the ups and downs along the way. If people want to check out Nourish Dog, what they have to Google or what's the website? Best
Yeah,
website.
www.nourishtalk.com. That's the best place for everyone to go to. Until our app comes, we will be posting it right on our website. And then we would love to get feedback from whoever wants to contact us.
And if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I think go to our website, and then we have a little form, contact us form. It comes to us, it comes to me. But me
Hmm.
personally, I mean, they can just send me hello@nourishtalk.com. That is an email that
Hmm.
people are welcome to reach out if they want to reach out to me personally.
Great, Amita. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and impactful work you're doing through Nourish Dog. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ash.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Founders Podcast. I hope you found our conversation with Amita insightful and inspiring. Go check out nourishdog.com, the website, and make sure you check out the app, which is about to launch. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on our future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.